have to talk about it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, coming up on this special edition of Break It Down with Brian H, episode 220, I have the one and only Queen PR of Those Wrestling Girls, and we are going to talk about the women of the Royal Rumble.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just gonna keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Realm presents Break It Down with Brian H.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Break It Down with Brian H. Y'all already heard the intro. Queen PR, how you doing today?
I am good. It's
you.
Royal Rumble season, so I have nothing to complain about.
So, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I had to have you on here. I know for a fact that this is your favorite pay-per-view. It's one of the things I always heard you say on Those Wrestling Girls, which y'all should already be subscribed to. Y'all should already be following. I mean, they are the premier wrestling show for all things women's wrestling. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. It's very seldom do I present my opinions as fact, but that's a fact. But I've heard you say like the Royal Rumble is your favorite, and it's like so cool because like your co-host, shout out to Krista B, would always say Survivor Series is her favorite.
Yeah.
And for me, in a markout stage, I actually had the opportunity to be, the day after the Survivor Series, sit next to your co-host and enjoy Raw. And it's funny because I was actually like an aisle down from your twin. During the pay-per-view. Yeah.
Nice.
And so so that was obviously a great weekend, getting the opportunity to be up there in New York. And I mean, y'all welcomed us like royalty. Everybody who came in there,
family.
Yeah. So but when why the Royal Rumble? Like, why is that your favorite? When did it become your favorite? When did you realize it was your favorite?
I think I always, as a wrestling fan, love the surprise element.
Okay.
Like the moments like that you can't like that feeling, and like Royal Rumble is literally like the whole night is like you don't know what's gonna happen next. You don't know whose music's gonna hit for the most part. Then there's so many like stories that are being told throughout the whole night, and why certain people come out after certain people, and it's, for me, it just encapsulates like everything I love about wrestling. And I also love that like that's the pay-per-view you can kind of introduce non-wrestling fans to, because it's just the shock value. Then you have your favorite because you see them, lasting the whole night, and then you really don't know who's gonna win, and you from the crowd you can tell certain things mean something. So it's just a fun pay-per-view altogether, and it's in January, my birthday month. So it's just, I don't know, so many, and what Royal Rumble always stood for in wrestling, like in WWE, I should say, where it's like if you win, you're about to go up.
Yeah, shout out to you. You just celebrated a birthday. Shout out to you.
Thank you.
I like what you said, that it's the pay-per-view that you can introduce non-wrestling fans to. A few years ago, it was the 2013 Royal Rumble. My godbrother and I, we used to go to this place in Baltimore called Loafers, and that's where all the wrestling fans, that was our legends, basically. And when I was like, yo, The Rock is going to be here, why don't you come on out? Like, he not be there, but he's going for the WWE Championship. And I know when, like, me and him, like, we grew up. I mean, if you couldn't have told us at the time we weren't tag team champions, whether it was the video games or we was going for the titles. I mean, I'm talking like SmackDown 2 at SmackDown for PlayStation, playing all hours of the night, trying to win the belts from each other. So, but then he got out of it. But it was the Royal Rumble where he didn't get back into it necessarily, but he enjoyed it. And he was like, yo, I like that guy Dolph Ziggler. I like this wrestler. So I you brought up a good point. What's your first Royal Rumble memory?
Stone Cold.
Okay.
Stone Cold.
Which one? Like,
all of them have good memories to me, but the first one that he won is very memorable to me. And then the one, oddly enough, where Vince McMahon won, because like the whole Royal Rumble was about Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon. And then that infamous gif of him checking his watch and it's just so many moments that I I associate with him. But then I gotta say my favorite women's match of all time is the 2018, the first women's Royal Rumble for me personally, because I can watch that match every time and I get the same emotion every single time I watch it. So that's what I think about when I think about like Royal Rumble in general. And
So
like what makes it amazing.
yeah, definitely. Have you ever read Vince Russo's book?
No.
So you brought up the 97 Royal Rumble, and I remember reading his book, and he said that originally Bret Hart was supposed to win, but I think it was called WWF Mania at the time. It was like their magazine show they used to have on Saturday mornings. And they was doing a discussion. He said, well, who's supposed to win the Royal Rumble? I mean, who you think will win the Royal Rumble? And he said, Bret Hart. And Vince McMahon like chewed him out and said, you gave away the finish. He's like, everybody and their mother thinks Bret Hart's going to win the Royal Rumble because, it was ultimately supposed to get back to Bret and Shawn, but Shawn Michaels faked the knee injury and all that. No, he lost his smile. I'm a Bret Hart guy. So
me too. I'm reading his book right now. So yeah.
Oh wow, yeah. Let me know what you think about it because that's like one of my favorite
It's
books.
my third time reading it, and I enjoy it the same because it's also like a history of wrestling too.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it every single time.
Yeah, and so like when he talked about that, he said that it was supposed to be, like I said, it was supposed to be Bret Hart, but that's when they went with Austin, and I was like, oh wow, and then like I said, I just got finished watching the '99 Royal Rumble. I still to this day remember coming home from school and my uncle Mike, shout out to him, rest in peace, brought the tape and left like, hey, here you go, here's wrestling from last night. The 2018 Royal Rumble, when it happened, I mean, obviously, I remember, just the excitement. Were you satisfied with the winner?
Yes.
Okay.
I was. I didn't like Ronda coming out right after. And it's unfortunate what ended up happening to Asuka's streak, but that's another story. But I was fine with the winner. I was. It took me by surprise. And the finish, because my girl Nikki. Mm-hmm. So I just, when I say I love that match, like everything about that match is amazing to me.
I'm gonna do a real quick plug for Mac Mania. Shout out to Evan Mac. Yesterday we had Sam Roberts on the show, and he said if he was booking, he would have Nikki Bella surprise everybody and win the Royal Rumble.
Smart
and then
man.
it would be her and Charlotte at WrestleMania. And I was sitting there like, when he said like, huh. And now we'll get into predictions later, but it was interesting. But I was actually, so it's ironic that we had so many years without women's wrestling at the Royal Rumble. And the reason why I say that, because in the first Royal Rumble, it featured granted it was on USA, it wasn't a pay-per-view yet, but it featured a women's tag team match. Matter of fact, for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Have you gone back and looked at that match?
I have not, and I am gonna put that on my list of watch-alongs to watch for the first time.
Yeah,
because that's amazing.
Yeah, I was like, wow, like this is like pretty cool. And I remember like reading about it, and I have the box set of the DVDs. And I remember when I first got it, I like got excited. So I put in the first Royal Rumble. It's amazing. Like WrestleMania, they knew was going to be a big deal, right? Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble was like, okay, let's just try this thing, and then it's just another one of Pat Patterson's genius moves.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. But I want to go to the 1999 Royal Rumble. Let's talk about the women in the Royal Rumble. So in history, we have 4 women, and it all started in 99, and you could say 2000, but 99 was obviously where Chyna entered the Royal Rumble. I would like to think if betting was a thing, right? I would think she would have, might not have been an odds-on favorite, but she would have been like high, maybe in like the top 5 people would have picked. I remember like the discussions, amongst the wrestling circles, and there was a few people picking Chyna. What was your thoughts doing?
When like watching it,
mm-hmm.
I like I was so shocked. Like I was 9. So, and Chyna for me and my sister, shout out to King Letty, like
Shout out to her.
everything to us. And at that time, I recently rewatched it. At that time, Chyna was like at her peak. She looked amazing. She was confident, and it was. I hate to use this word when talking about wrestling, but it was believable that she was in this match. And when she started eliminating people, it was like, oh yeah, and she was a contender. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this is cute. Like, no, Chyna entered that shit as a contender. And then I watched the 2000s one and I forgot that she was in that one too. And it just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, I actually, you brought that up because like when I was doing the research, I was like, wait, what? She was in 2000, and she actually did double duty that night because that's when her and Jericho entered the triple threat match as co-intercontinental champions. And it's unfortunate on everything that's happened with her. May she rest in peace. But like, she was a true icon, and you just imagine how she would have been. Let's just say, because there's always according to Jim Ross, she didn't want to wrestle the women. She wanted to stay special, right? But and we remember her last match was with, if I'm not mistaken, with Lita in the ladder match. But can you just imagine how cool it would have been to see Chyna with this roster? Chyna and Charlotte Flair is the main event. Chyna and Sasha Banks. Chyna and Bianca Belair.
Oh my God. It's almost too heartbreaking for me to think about, to be honest with you, because her story is so tragic. But at the time, like, how iconic was that? Like, at Royal Rumble, she was in the Royal Rumble and she was in an Intercontinental Championship match.
Yeah.
Like, that's like iconic right there.
Absolutely. Drizzy 502 on Twitch says Chyna would have at least won one, of the women's Royal Rumble.
Totally. And shout out to Black Wrestling. I see them in the comments.
Yeah, shout out to fam and Davis, as always showing love. Make sure y'all check them out tomorrow. So but then Beth Phoenix comes in 2010, and I always looked at, like, when Beth Phoenix, with which she dominated the ruthless aggression era, it was Chyna-esque.
Very.
And it was like, and unfortunately, like, we was waiting for that dream matchup that we never got. That was like, we saw it coming, which was her and Karma, who was also in the Women's Royal Rumble.
Right. Oh my God, yes.
And like, and fortunately, we get to see Beth Phoenix. Actually, she'll be competing this Saturday. It sounds so weird.
I know. I gotta remember.
I remember the '94 Royal Rumble being on a Saturday, only because I remember I was at my grandmother's house. I feel like me and my dad was getting our haircuts, and we was trying to hurry up and get back home because we had ordered it. And my neighbor, by the time I got there, he was also there. He was at my house already, so we could watch it. But it was like different, like it was on a Saturday night. Shout out from Power Ups and Power Bombs. Yeah, love you too, bro. But yeah, just talk about Beth Phoenix and Karma, and your thoughts on them and their contributions to the Royal Rumble.
Well, Beth to me was like always ahead of her time for me, and that's why I'm so glad that she came back, because she was so dominant and another woman that was believable coming into the Rumble. And I mean, you had the kissing thing, like, okay, but it was still really cool to see her do that. Then there was like that Chyna mark in me was like, I love that Chyna was like the only one for a long time, but then so you gotta respect it. And then Karma for me was such, in general, a lost opportunity. Like, her vignettes with the Barbie dolls, like, just thinking about it, it's like, they could have did so much more with that. But her and being in the Royal Rumble was like a pop. I was like, oh wait, yes, are we doing this? Oh, okay, I love it.
Didn't it feel like they was getting ready to come out of the Diva-esque era?
Absolutely.
Like in 2012, it felt like we was like, now and was this 2012? I'm trying to think who's in developmental. Naomi's coming out of developmental. around this time, and obviously Ariana or Cameron. But I believe like Paige and AJ Lee may have been down there, who were wrestlers. So it felt like we was getting ready to come out of it. You know, shout out to Andre watching. But it's just, you know, obviously she got pregnant, and I stay out of women's business when it comes to that, because, you know, that something I can never understand. Like, you know, how do you rebound from, you know, everything? But it's like you
It
just
shows how far women's wrestling has come as well. Just even talking about the karma situation, because you have Becky Lynch bragging on live TV that she goes and breastfeeds her daughter, and she gets on stage and she cuts a promo and she goes back and takes care of her daughter. So it just shows you how far things have come.
Yeah.
How you? I'm gonna
put you on a hot seat. How do you feel about Becky Lynch?
You're trying to get me. You're trying to get me. So you know me, Brian. When it comes to the women, like, it's very hard for me to say anything negative, because I'm always going to try to amplify the value that they bring to the table. And like, Becky is one of the greatest to me. I don't think she needs the championship. I feel like, you know, give other people a chance. You know what I mean? Like, you're at that point where you don't need it. And now I like the underdog Becky. So the big time Bex for me, like, don't get me wrong, like, I love it when she comes out. It like makes me happy and shit. But I'm a little over it. Her and Charlotte.
Oh, Charlotte too?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I just want to see other people have a chance with the championship.
I think for me, here's what I say about Becky. She's so good at her job.
Very.
Because she's made me like, somebody beat her. And for my 6-year-old who will be 7 on Monday, she can't stand Becky. Like, before we got on the air, she's sitting up there going through. She's like, Dad, did you know Bianca Belair did the obstacle course with Bailey? She's like, look, watch. I was like, I watched this when it aired. But it's like so cool. Like, y'all always talk about representation, you know, to see her going. She's literally been on the Bianca Belair YouTube rabbit hole today.
I love it.
And but I'm looking at, like, now Charlotte, I'm like okay with, because if the rumors are true that she wanted to put Bianca over, but they wanted her to still have the belt, that makes me feel good, because it feels like, okay, she wants to do business, you know. Like, she even said when she was being interviewed by Renee Paquette, why hasn't she had a program with Naomi? You know, like, and that's something I would love to see. That would probably be like my dark horse to win the Royal Rumble, would be Naomi. And it was like, oh, y'all gonna get her going again. But, you know, I had to ask you. You know, I definitely like your answer.
Yo, you know, because if you say one negative thing about someone you like, their fans just are insane.
Oh, I'm used to it.
You like, fuck it.
Look, Public Enemies tweeted the thing the other day about what's the wrestling opinion, and I said Batista's overrated, and, you know, people came at me, man.
That is shocking.
But
I'm not gonna like send you death threats over it.
I liked them, and I think it was more because I was tired of Triple H as the champion. And then afterwards, it was like, you know, when it got to Batista versus Undertaker, you know, and then maybe it's the whole Baltimore DC thing.
Wait, what's the Baltimore DC thing?
Oh, it's like oil and water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like Jersey. Like, from what I understand, New York and New Jersey a lot of times.
Don't lump us together.
That's how like Baltimore isn't a part of DMV. DMV is the lower part of Maryland and the upper part of Virginia and DC. It was like, no, we ain't part of that. We our own entity. But, you know, we don't really have much. DC can brag they got a former world champion. I mean, we had Rich Swann and Stacy Keibler. We claimed them from Baltimore.
Okay.
You know, like, because technically Stacy Keibler is from Laurel, which is actually a part of DMV, but she was claiming Baltimore.
I should just claim it.
we claim Stacy Keibler, but yeah. Oh man, but yeah. So We was talking about the '99 Royal Rumble, right? And I was a huge Sable fan, and I was looking at the match with her and Luna, and it's different watching it after watching Luna's Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, it's very different. See, at the time, because I was so young, I didn't appreciate Luna.
Right,
I was a Sable fan, as we all were. I like boobs. So like it is what it is. So I didn't appreciate Luna. But then as I got older and I learned more about like wrestling history and like how she came from a wrestling family and how being the women's champion was like her lifelong dream, and I listened to the Sable episode of Something to Wrestle With.
Yeah.
And that's what made me rewatch that match and be like, oh, and then the Dark Side of the Ring, I was like, oh, and then we'll get to it. But just how unhappy she was when they did the bikini contest, or lingerie contest, I think.
The next year? Oh no,
I think it was was it the next year? I went in a Royal Rumble rabbit hole, but
that would have been the Miss Royal Rumble contest. Yeah. And the infamous Mae Young.
She hated doing that shit. Talking about Luna. I think Mae Young had a lot of fun. Wait, did you watch that live?
No.
The Miss Royal Rumble? Because I'm trying to remember if they showed her.
Oh no, I had the tape. No, they
okay.
showed it. They yeah.
Okay.
I remember when I watched it, I was like, okay. So then my sister, who's 2 years younger than me, she would watch wrestling with me here and there. Like she could remember stuff from the Attitude Era. And of course, she'll send me like a GIF or a video. Remember this? And I said, look, watch this. And I just like looked at her face. It's always funny when you do that, like when you know something, especially in wrestling, when you know something that's going to happen. And to see somebody who didn't see it and
love
see the reaction.
My favorite thing in the world.
It was one of my favorite things. My little cousin, he was born in '98. Matter of fact, he was born the day after the Go Home Raw for King of the Ring when Edge made his debut. Why do I still remember that? I don't know. But so it was the King of the Ring before, with the night Kane first talked on Raw, when he first talked, and he said, against Stone Cold. So later on, like in 2000, it was the day we went to the Ravens parade, and I said, hey Mike, why don't you watch this clip? And it was It's Me, Austin, right? So it was like the higher power. And I'm just sitting there in the other room, just watching his face. And you remember like Vince McMahon comes up there and he's like, Shane, I'm gonna eat my bowl of Wheaties. And he was like, it's me, Austin. To see my little cousin's face. And see, this is the thing. Like me and Dwayne talked about this the other day on we talked about this the other day on last week on the Wrestling Realm Now podcast. Certain things you just had to experience.
Right.
You could sit up there and be like, oh yeah, this happened, this, that, and the other. Like I always say, these ruthless aggression babies, they always got something to say, like, oh, the Attitude Era was overrated. But what they don't remember is they wasn't going to school having these conversations. Right. They wasn't going to school or picking up the phone. Did you just see what happened on Raw? Like, I always say, like, I kind of wish, like, sometimes I wish I was more of a young adult, like in college during that time. Because imagine, like, I never went to a show during the Attitude Era. So being able to like have my own money and go to the show, like that would have been so much.
Imagine that atmosphere. Like if you could drink. Like if I was old enough to drink during the Attitude Era, I probably would have showed my book. Shawn Michaels one time would have asked me to pull my fucking shirt up, and it would have been a wrap. Yeah. I would have been a hot ass mess. That used to be the Attitude Era fucked us up.
Yeah, I love the shirt. And so I always like, man, like imagine just how like cool that would have been. But yeah, I was like I said, I was going down, just looking at, I wrote down like all the matches. We ain't gonna go over all of them, but I was just, wanted to make sure I had like all the women's matches listed. I was, you did talk about the the Miss Rumble contest, but just 2 years later, we got to see Trish Stratus and Jet. Well, actually, before we get there, Chyna and Ivory. You know, and we talked about Chyna 99 men's Royal Rumble, 2000 Intercontinental match, men's Royal Rumble, 2001. You know, she in a match with Ivory, which to me, I remember that was the unfortunately the last Royal Rumble I watched with my grandmother, and I remember being disappointed, like, yo, what the heck, like, you know, her losing. Obviously, now understanding the payoff was at WrestleMania, but you know, it was unfortunate. But you could see Chyna, like, I remember as guys, and you know, school, like, oh, Chyna hot.
Well, she looked great, like. You know, like when people get a lot of plastic surgery and then it's like, you know, it's like 2 years where it's like they look great. Like I wish like she would have did nothing else because she looks so good.
Yeah.
Like, and she was confident and happy, and I think you could see it.
Yeah, you know, and man, she it's unfortunate.
But I was okay with Ivory winning because, well, see, no, I'm lying. Not at the time. I was devastated. But now being 32 and knowing more about the wrestling business, I'm like, if Ivory was doing the right to censor thing at the time, it was like, yeah, because like I hated them. That fucking entrance music.
Oh my goodness!
I was like, worst. Oh my god! My sister and I were watching. I had to mute it. I was just because I like hearing the crowd. Our crowds are like, but I was like, okay, that's why. And like you said, the payoff was WrestleMania. But yeah, I think Chyna is Chyna Miss Royal Rumble.
Oh,
if Shawn Michaels is Mr. Royal Rumble, no, I think Xavier Woods should be honest. Who's Mr. Royal Rumble?
So technically nobody. I would have to go with Stone Cold because he's the first 3-time winner. You know, they give Shawn Michaels Mr. WrestleMania. Personally, I think it's Macho Man.
That's a spicy conversation.
Well, you think about WrestleMania 3, 4. Wait, what's that? WrestleMania 3, 4. Maybe not 5. Yeah, no, WrestleMania 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. He had the best matches.
Valid.
You know, matches of the night. You could probably make an argument for 2. Not really. I mean, he's raced to George Animal Steel at WrestleMania 2.
But there's so many WrestleManias now.
Yeah,
there could be more. Like I feel like
it could be Roman. Roman's already broken Hogan's record, I think, for consecutive WrestleMania main events.
Yeah, I think Kofi needs a WrestleMania, like a Royal Rumble, like honorable mention or something, because
definitely
he just does things that I'm just like, what? How the fuck?
Yeah. And I like it because then you know you got to the point you start looking forward to it. And,
pressure.
And the crowd. Like the crowds get going, and for you to be able to maintain like concentration for the stuff that he was doing, and it's like it's a low risk, high reward because it's like he's not gonna win anyway, right? You know, but like even last year, like my wife's a teacher, right? And one of the things she did, she was like, "Hey, get off that clip when Naomi and Bianca was working together because you had these two black women." Working together, and what was so cool about it was the fact that you saw everything that Naomi was doing. I mean, throughout all these years, she always found that way. So like she found her spot. But I hope, you know, I honestly I wouldn't bet on Kofi winning the Royal Rumble.
No.
But I would love to see Naomi get one. Probably won't be this year, but I would definitely love to see her get one. So, you know, she wouldn't just be used just for spots.
You know what would be cool is how they did with Bianca, where she was kind of the star of the 2020 Royal Rumble. And then she had momentum going through that whole year. And then when she won in 2021, it was kind of like, duh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like they always have these windows of time to push Naomi, and they never take advantage of it. But this could be it. Like we could literally be like, can't believe Naomi didn't, like really be like, shit, she should have won, and then really build for like next year. You can tell I've been reading Bret Hart's book because I'm like planning storylines a year in advance.
Yep.
Oh man.
Well, that's one of the things we as wrestling fans gotta support, you know.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jabari of the NAW group, Nation of African American Wrestling. we was talking about, you know, you got these companies like Terminix, right? But then you also have like the wrestlers, you know, and supporting the wrestlers, you know. We was talking about like people like Amber Rodriguez and Shalonce Royale, the Woe, you know, making sure we support them because, you know, especially us as Black wrestler fans. I did a podcast yesterday, the Delvin Cox Experience, and it'll air in a couple weeks. But one of the things he said, like, what's been the resurgence of Black wrestler fans and Black podcasters. I said, I don't think it's necessarily been a surge. It's that in some cases we found each other and made our voices louder. There's also cases where, like, we've always been here, but now, you know, when you put us in a group together, look out, right? As opposed to like when we apart, because like you making noise over there, I'm making noise over there, we can say the same thing, but who's hearing it? But it's like we come together, we're 10 times louder. And that's one of the things that's been happening. We've been able to do that. And, you know, I think that, you know, it's obviously it always takes more than just Twitter and giving Naomi a chance. Yeah, that works, but it really goes to merch and crowd reactions, you know. And if we can continue to do that, I think that maybe we can get that moment for her. It worked for, you know, WrestleMania 33. She had that moment, you know, and it was amazing.
I was just gonna say it was amazing. That's when that weird thing about wrestling where sometimes injuries can like work better for you, because I feel like if she didn't get injured that year, she would have lost it at Mania as opposed to getting it back. And then it was in her hometown.
Yeah,
like it was perfect.
So I'm glad we talked about that because like I know y'all did y'all spotlight. Make sure y'all check that out on Those Wrestling Girls Twitter. Podcast feed and on their YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. You should be subscribed already. But one of the things that so I remember rooting that she didn't win because again, we're as wrestling fans, we're programmed to a lot of times think about, okay, well, if it doesn't happen here, it will happen at WrestleMania. And like you just said, because it didn't happen, because it happened there, maybe she would have lost it, you know? So like, obviously I'm never rooting for nobody to get injured. And I was sad for her, but when I found out, oh wait, she's gonna be back. Oh man, and you know, I was there. I shed a tear when that happened. Like I was just like, I remember, like, you know, when she got that win, it was amazing. And because a lot of people thought that, if you remember, a lot of people thought that match was gonna get taken off the card. And the one thing I'm happy WWE did was, because it was so late, you know, that was like the first of that 5-hour WrestleMania. Because I remember Taker and Roman, and we got out of there. When I got up with Corey and Glenn, it was like 1 o'clock. Yeah, but one of the things I remember, if you remember, like with Undertaker and Bray Wyatt, the reason why to me that match fell flat was because it was light outside. Like if it would have been on the East Coast or been in the Dome, we could have got the darkness and the fireflies and all that. So I'm glad like WWE learned their lesson and put that match at the end of the card so we could see the glow and everything that comes with Naomi's presentation.
Right. Oh, great point. Great point. Because I'm just thinking about how cool the entrance ramp looked, and was that the really long one?
Yeah. That was the one. It was the roller coaster, and I remember Goldberg coming out, and I was like, I've never heard this part of his song. Because it just was like. Well, so the first match was Austin Aries and I'm about to call him Pac, Neville. And I remember holding my phone, recording it, and it was like 1 minute and 40 seconds for one of them to get to the ring.
Sheesh. That shit was long as fuck. Who normally runs to the ring? Oh, John Cena.
Yeah.
And I was like, you gonna run this? Like, you really okay?
With Nikki Bella.
Yes.
And all we kept thinking about that whole night was like, dog, Taker's gonna be when they announced that Goldberg, and when they said the following contest is for the WWE Universal Championship, everybody looked at each other and said, they're closing with Roman and Taker. This is probably Taker's last match. And what happened was we all like looked at each other, and then we was like, yo, when Taker come out here, it's gonna take forever. Thankfully, they lifted him from the middle. Right.
Like, get your ass the ring.
Yeah, I was like, oh boy. Yup. So yup, as I said, you know, but you know, let's move back to the Royal Rumble. 2002, we got to see Trish Stratus versus Jazz, and this is early Trish Stratus. I'm reprogramming y'all to not just look at me, but see me for the wrestler. You know, she had the match. She won the title at Survivor Series. She had a successful title defense against I'm looking right at her, Jacqueline's. And that was where like Jacqueline kind of like accepted her and said, put over and respected her. And then she had the match with Jazz, which, it's kind of a shorter match compared to, and it's unfortunate, it's Jazz is somebody who really, I will say I was more of a Trish fan. So Jazz was the heel. So I rooted against her. But
and we were programmed to root for Trish.
Yeah, bingo. I would say this I might get some heat. But like when everybody was, oh man, I was a big fan, this, that, and the other. I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here and say I was, I will become, and obviously later on respected her work. But during the height, when she was the top heel, I was rooted against her. I had an opportunity to meet her when I was working with RCW here in Baltimore before they disbanded. And it was the matter of fact, that was the last show. And just having a conversation. I mean, then at dinner, like we talked about Scandal.
Nice.
Like, I'm like really talking Scandals like with Jazz, and it was amazing.
So approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't get a chance to like meet her, but we had her on the show.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because we did like.
Didn't her daughter come on too? Like said hi.
Yeah, for like a second, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did like a spotlight episode of her career first, and then ended it with the interview. So it was so amazing to like already be gushing about Jazz, because like you said, like later on I appreciated Jazz's work, but at the time I was a Trish Stratus fan.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I was able to tell Jazz, which I really appreciated, was like I feel like she made Trish a wrestler.
Bingo.
Like you brought that physicality out of her, and Trish has spoken highly of her matches with Jazz, and it just goes to why I hate that revisionist history of WWE, because they act like Trish only had one substantial feud, and it's like she had other fucking feuds, including Jazz and
Victoria. I mean, could we be honest and say those were probably better feuds than she had with Lita?
I honestly can agree. And when you really think back on it, they have crafted this narrative of the Lita and Trish feud, but that's a whole
that's a whole other show
situation. But I like her matches with Jazz more like at Survivor Series, and like her triple threat matches and stuff with Jazz. But I do love that there was a women's championship match at Royal Rumble, and like you said, like Trish is earning that title. I'm here.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the unfortunately, we could move on to like the ruthless aggression era. I was looking at like some of the matches, right? You had like Mickie James and Ashley, and that was obviously to set up like the Mickie and Trish feud. Beth Phoenix and Melina, Mickie James and Michelle McCool, Eva and Eve Torres, and defeating like Natalia, Layla, and Michelle McCool. And a lot of those matches during that Diva era, I know like people love their ruthless aggression era, but a lot of those women's matches was lost in the shuffle, unfortunately. And
like a Tori Wilson and Dawn Marie, like no shade, but but like I don't.
When her father died, quote unquote.
See, it was like, but we weren't talking about the match.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the ridiculous storyline around it, and this was like sort of the time where I was like teetering off of it. At like during that time, I was like 13. I was in high school, and and I was like kind of teetering off of it. So I don't know. I didn't catch on to the new era of women's very easily at this time. So this match for me was just like meh. Mickie James and Ashley, not bad.
Mm-hmm. And I think one, it does like it was cool to see a Beth Phoenix, during this era get into the mix. It was cool to see Karma get into the mix with the men's because of that, But then like, when we get to the PG era, we start to see the Bella Twins, and, obviously them going against Paige and Natalya. And, I think, one, it does like it was cool to see a Beth Phoenix, during this era get into the mix. It was cool to see Karma get into the mix with the men's because of that, But then like, when we get to the PG era, we start to see the Bella Twins, and, obviously them going against Paige and Natalya. I think that's a group, and I know like I always love like y'all discussion on the Bella Twins because I don't think they get the respect that they deserve. Because like people, it's easy to say, oh yeah, they're getting pushed because they look good or whatever. But going in there, getting in the ring, it is hard to take a bump.
Right.
I've done it literally once.
Oh my God! I kudos because I don't think I could.
It hurts. That's why I will not use the F word. I don't have the license to use the F word. If somebody else says it to me, by all means, that's a wrestler. Like, me and my former manager, when I was working at my previous job, we went to Amber's match because we was in the same town, and I kept saying, "You can't call this fake." And it was funny because like she's sitting there like, "Wow." So the funny story, she saw like the wrestlers in the boots. She goes, "Are those knee boots?" And I'm like, "No, they're wrestler boots." Now, as a wrestler fan in a wrestler bubble, I always just see them as wrestling boots and kick pads, whatever. I'm like, she really just said they knee boots. What?
Oh,
wait a minute.
That's adorable.
I was like, I never looked at it like that, and I still won't. But it was just hilarious.
Yeah, it's to think some people are outside the wrestling, but we're like, wow, that exists.
Yeah, something wrong with them, not us.
Right.
But it's so but so I always give credit,
more respect.
Yeah, to the Bellas. That's why I always love it that y'all do that. Because quite frankly, they deserve it, and I wouldn't be mad if they had another run. I think those tag titles. I think those tag titles may, would look good on their resume. What you think?
I think everybody watching this knows what I think. Okay, and the only reason I'm saying that, not because I am a proud member of the Bella Army, but Nikki's last run was probably her best wrestling wise.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it gets kind of overshadowed because of Bree's botches during that run, but like that. She toured. She did a couple European tours after Evolution and everything, and like she was having some of her best matches. So that's why I'm like, no, she has another run in her. Like I'm not just saying this because like whatever. And I think Bree, if you train harder this time when you come back, like they should definitely have another run. And they're this type of special attraction Hall of Famers as well that can come in and do like a 4-month storyline and leave, and I'm fine. You know what I mean? Like they can do that. Like they don't gotta like be on the road and shit. Like come in and do a little spicy. Hold the titles from a pay-per-view to another pay-per-view,
Totally. And one of the things about Brie that the reason why I'm never like getting on about the run, I mean, she came back after having a baby.
Right.
And I don't know like what it's like, obviously, and trying to regain that time and that confidence. So I commended her, and people's going, I was like, y'all, be easy, like, dog, she just had a baby.
Right.
Like, y'all, especially, the internet wrestler fan in his mama's basement on his keyboard and eating his donuts and that, I'm shaming them because they shame other people, not because their situation.
Right.
So, but let me ask you this. Are you gonna get the Divas title, the Bella's Divas title?
That's on my list. That's like on my wish list. Yeah, I want more belts, but I don't have the space right now.
Okay,
so that's on my list. What my hidden what I want more than anything in the world, though, and I always speak into the universe, is the Evolution belt. Brian, make that happen for me. But I do want the Bella belt.
If there was a way, like if they had they gotta have one or two just that sitting around.
Gorgeous, it's beautiful.
I remember when our good friend Corey got his, and
so jealous of him.
He hit me up, was like, bro, I think I'm gonna get it. I said, yeah.
Duh.
And when he let me hold it, I was like, yo, this is like, they should really use this. Like if you didn't want to bounce back between the two shows, that would be the ultimate title. I would love to see an Evolution too.
But back to Royal Rumble and the Bella Twins really quickly is, I think, and one thing I like and why we love Trish is because we literally watched her grow as a wrestler, as a performer. I think it's the same thing with the Bella Twins. Like taking on Paige and Natalya is not like an easy feat. Like those are wrestlers. So I think just to see how they were able to elevate their style, like even when Sasha Banks and them started coming through in like 2015, 2016, it's like you can see that everybody stepped their game up.
Yeah.
During that time, and it's like I take that into consideration.
And it hit it right ahead, just to see that like everybody stepping their game up. As we get into the now era, I mean, Charlotte Flair, 2016, successfully defends the title against Becky Lynch. The following year against Bayley, just back to back, and then obviously she would win a Royal Rumble, which I wasn't too happy about that one. The 2020 Royal Rumble is like, as it's actually the unfortunate 2-year anniversary of the death of Kobe Bryant. But the 2020 Royal Rumble, like I watched it literally like just hurt. So like even Edge, who's like one of my favorites, I couldn't even like. I was.
It was hard.
Edge is back. Yeah, but
my sister was on our way to Legends, and we found out like literally walking out the door. Wow. And she's a Kobe fanatic. And she was like,
that's why we got along so well.
Yeah, like fanatic. And she was like, I don't think I want to go. And I was just like, no, we should go. And Sasha Banks didn't show up. So I was like, it was just a sad night. And Charlotte winning she didn't show. I don't remember. Like, I was so excited because she wasn't in the Royal Rumble before. Because she had her match with Ronda Rousey, which I really want to talk about. And then she wasn't in it for 2020. She just didn't show up. And I remember Santina, whatever, fucking showed up, I think. And it was just like, whatever.
That was such a letdown at WrestleMania 25 when Santina was Miss WrestleMania. It was such a letdown.
Like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
But see, let WWE tell it, and that's one of the most memorable moments of and it's like, no.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get right into that match. Ronda and Sasha.
I didn't appreciate it at the time, but I think that's definitely one of Ronda Rousey's best matches in WWE, like by far. And it was really good. And Sasha fucking brought that shit out of her. It reminded me of like William Regal, like showing like, oh, you want to be a wrestler, huh? Okay, we're going to do this. And why I always had respect for Ronda's run, because Ronda kept up. In my opinion. I don't know what you think of that match.
No, I see, this is why I like, talking wrestling with you, because it's always an intelligent perspective, right? Like if you look at the Wrestling Realm, it says Wrestling Realm, superior wrestling intellect, right? And that's the conversations we like to have, not just sitting up here trolling. There's room for opinion, but then there's also room to look at it like from a logical standpoint, where there's obviously wrestling isn't always logical, but where logic can be applied. And I did that. I thought, I mean, you look at Ronda Rousey, she's money. Everything she was on ESPN and all the big companies was covering. So it was important for her to be there. And, and I thought she did a good job working with the ladies, not trying to go out and prove I'm this sort of tough woman, wasn't afraid to take a bump. Like we hear about Kurt Angle, he said before he didn't understand the business, well, I can't lose. I would have loved to see Ronda get her, shoulders pinned to the mat a few times, but I also understood the story. Long-term booking, you're trying to build Becky, so this is the way you do it, and have her, even though it was a weird pin Ronda, which to me looked like it was done that way to leave it open for another match, more so that than a botch. Maybe I'm being too optimistic, but
I want to believe that too, Brian. So let's just say that's what it was.
Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure WWE is always gonna want it open, because Becky and Ronda was money, and we never got that singles match.
Right, we really didn't. Yeah, you tend to like forget. We're supposed to get it, but I look at that match with Sasha. Now, I wasn't the biggest Sasha Banks fan. Didn't hate her. Rooted for it when necessary. When she was purple hair, Sasha. I felt like a lot of times I was like, man, she was just moving too fast, like boom, 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 boom. But when she came back, she had the blue hair. My boy Blake would say the blue hair angel. To me, she was on 8 levels more. Like she went from good to legendary.
Like she just don't get me started on Sasha Banks. This will become a fucking Sasha Banks.
Like that mental break was needed.
Oh,
and
100,000%.
That we can learn from her. Like sometimes to be at your best. Like I respect what y'all did when y'all took time off from a fan standpoint.
It's
man,
hard.
like, but then from a family perspective, it's like do that so that when you take the time off, because I've had to do it, and it allows you to say, all right, I'm gonna come back 10 times stronger, so when I look at that match, I think what was hard to watch is not hard to watch, but again, watching wrestling for so long, you tend to know which way things are gonna go, right? So it's like when you kind of know she's not winning this, but when you take that side out of it and just appreciate the contest and the art and the storytelling, it makes it more fun. And I would love to see Sasha get her win back. So I think a lot of people owe Sasha wins.
Line it up. But what I love about Sasha's growth and evolution, and what I love about wrestling is, like you said, when she came back, she's a legend. When Ronda Rousey comes back now, Sasha is now that top star that Ronda has to work with. If not before Becky, after Becky, whatever the case, is one of those things where like it's up to that point. Like Sasha didn't get a feud with Ronda Rousey until how long after Ronda was there. But now I feel like Sasha's money, she's at that point where it's like, yeah, she's gonna need that feud with Sasha too. Yeah. And I'm sure, and Ronda only had the best things to say about Sasha because she also respected, and that's why they didn't need a story. The storyline was, I got to prove myself to Sasha Banks to show you, that was it. It's not like Sasha was the heel of the match. Like it was really like, okay, like I want to show you I can do this. And, okay. Nothing about Sasha Banks.
No, I mean, shout out to Teasy coming in. Shout out to Teasy. Make sure y'all check him out on all his projects. He was just on Wrestling for the Culture a few episodes ago. Make sure y'all know he on that AEW album celebrating Black history. So really excited about that. And I mean, y'all heard his music, from Sammy Guevara to so many others. So make sure y'all support him. Let's stick with Sasha though. Let's jump up a couple years when she was successfully defeated Carmella, because that's a feud that was so entertaining. I think a lot of people tend to forget because so here was the thing about Sasha's title reign for me, right? Okay. Every match felt like she could lose, so you get hooked, right? So I remember we was on we went away on vacation the night of what was that pay-per-view? Wherever she wrestled Asuka. And she beat Asuka to win the championship, but not really win the championship. But I remember watching it and just being like, man, because I wanted her and Bayley to have that. Like, to me, I know people aren't owed things, right? Yeah. But to me, god dang it, they was owed to have all 4 of those titles, 4 belts, because they carried us through the pandemic. Roman did his thing, but we got to remember, Roman didn't come till August. Right. Drew was Drew. He did his thing. And I think most of us was just happy because he beat Lesnar and took the title off of him. But before all of that, when they first went to the Thunderdome or into the Performance Center, it was Sasha and Bayley. Yeah. So like when she finally beat Bayley, that first match she had felt like she could lose. Like, man, because we knew every time she never successfully defends the title. And then, like, as she started racking up those wins, and like I said, this one against Carmella, it was like, wait a minute, she might go to WrestleMania with the strap.
Yeah, and I think that's what's so awesome about Sasha and her evolution is like she could lose on this big night. Like, yeah, she could win the title 2 weeks ago and lose it tonight. And then you add that with the artistry of her matches, It's like, so you're literally always, I remember I will always say, like, when I first got back into watching wrestling every week, like, I can't miss a Sasha Banks match.
Yeah.
Like, it's a spectacle. Like, you want to watch it and you don't want to miss anything. But can we also talk about, and I loved her feud with Carmella, by the way. I'm a Carmella fan as well. And I think she's severely underrated for, like, she's like, you can tell I'm reading about her, but a good worker. Because no matter what you put her in, we're going to be watching. Like, she has a good enough fan base where we're going to be watching. She's good on the mic. She can wrestle. And she also gets better every time. I don't know if you noticed that about Carmella. Like, she's very dependable that way. And I'm just like, yo, we should really give Carmella.
I mean, R-Truth and Carmella was so entertaining.
Great.
You take two people who, that's what they do. You give them something, they make it work.
Yeah.
Like, what has R-Truth done that's failed? Like, the little Jimmy, I had a little Jimmy shirt. I was wearing that to school in college. Ask Dwayne, he was right there. You know, and it was just hilarious that you would just turn it on.
She could be a baby face and a heel.
You know, and just to see, like, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people don't give Carmella her flowers.
Yeah, I any chance I get, I always do, because I'm like, she should. I mean, she's had a like, and don't get me wrong, she's had a championship run. She's first, 2-time Money in the Bank winner. So I'm not gonna say her act like Carmella ain't have her moments, but I do feel like I can, see more from her. And her feud with Sasha was super fun. I love.
Remember the night she cashed in?
I love, but what I loved when she carried it though is that she always would do like these fake, she would be like, oh, so I was like,
so we always talk about like knowing things and knowing what we know now, right? Yeah. So I gotta ask you, knowing what you know now, are you okay with Charlotte going over after Asuka won the first Royal Rumble? Are you okay with knowing that Carmella was going to get that opportunity? Are you okay with Asuka losing at WrestleMania?
No.
So you would have rather her cash in on Asuka and Asuka only having 2 days?
Oh.
See, that's that's the only thing. Like,
yeah, you're right.
To me, it just makes more sense. Unless you pull the Seth Rollins, right? Where she comes in, cashes it in at WrestleMania, but then WrestleMania is all about pay-per-views in general. You don't want to stack up too many moments, right? So like I was sitting there, like my first thought was Lita and Charlotte. I'm like, man, why aren't we getting Lita and Charlotte at the Royal Rumble? That would make sense. Then Dwayne's like, light bulb. He's like, yo, but if you do that, now they have to go against Seth and Roman, which is, a match. But then they also got to go against the dream match of Bobby and Brock. Do you really want to put that on that card? Because like Lita's a legend, Charlotte's obviously going to be a legend, so you're crowding it too. I said, that's how we bounce off each other.
Yeah,
so it's like
point.
Knowing like, okay, WrestleMania New Orleans, we probably would have forgotten. Up until last year, I thought that was a top 4 match for me, Charlotte and Asuka at WrestleMania. Like, to me, that was the greatest women's WrestleMania match until last year.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it.
But now looking at him, like, since Carmella was going to get her run, I'd rather that Asuka had been saved for later.
I agree.
But
I totally agree.
We look at WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble. So Charlotte, okay, with Charlotte won, that was 2020. Yeah, she did win. So the women are 3-1, which I thought Charlotte winning was. I thought I didn't like it at the time, right? Because it felt like, all right, everybody felt it should have been Shayna Baszler. It was just obvious. It's just like one of the times, like, okay, Shayna, in my opinion, should have beat Becky for the title. But I think what I hated even more due to COVID, we missed out on a great opportunity for a great story with Charlotte and Rhea Ripley.
I agree.
You think about Raymond J. Stadium, Charlotte's talking about she's used to it and how Rhea, she gonna have to step her game up. I just think I hate that we missed out on that great story.
I agree. And her beating Rhea did like it. Anyway, Charlotte winning was trash.
Well, remember, I thought it
And
was a visa issue though.
I mean, that could have been it.
Yeah, I
That could
thought
have been it.
because we didn't see Rhea for a while, and I think with the
That's true.
COVID and everything going on, I think that's what it was. I think that's the reason why they went that way. I don't know.
Yeah, and
Obviously,
Charlotte's the safety, but I feel like Charlotte is one of those people. You don't need this right now. Royal Rumble has always meant to me to be the stepping stone for the next, like someone who needs it, especially for the women. It's only been what, 3 of them. You've been champion almost 15 times. Why in the world do you need a WrestleMania main event opportunity? You know what I mean? Like Royal Rumble for me is for that person that fights. Like, you know, that's why I like Liv is a perfect Royal Rumble winner. Bianca was a perfect Royal Rumble winner. You know, like Asuka, like it was time. We needed that extra thing. Like, and it was in the midst of her undefeated streak. So it's like, okay, cool. Charlotte is a safety. It's like, okay, well, like who we really didn't want, we'll just throw Charlotte in there. And to her credit, even if people don't like it, that's great heat for her. You know what I mean? Yeah. It goes with her character. And I think that's what makes Charlotte Flair so great, to be honest. Is because she has natural heat. Like she's been fucking champion 800,000 times. Like you can't like I'm rooting for you. No.
Now let's talk about last year's Royal Rumble.
Okay.
I want to start with Bianca Belair being the number 3 entry. Did you get nervous?
I did.
Okay.
Because, like I said earlier, she was the star of 2020. So I was like, I thought, okay, well, she's just gonna be like one of 30. You know what I mean? Like one of 30. I didn't see her winning. I did when I was legit shocked. I thought they were gonna give it to Rhea just because of how they did her for Mania. I was like, okay, they're gonna give this to Rhea to kind of like, you know, give her that momentum back. But when she entered at 3, I was like, oh no. But she lasted. She holds the record, right? Longest in the Royal Rumble?
For the women, maybe even overall.
I think Chyna might have beat that, or I think Chyna has the most eliminations. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I gotta check. I know, like you look at, all right, Asuka was 25th entrant. Charlotte was the 17th entrant. Becky Lynch, 28th entrant. So like, you know, and it's ironically, Edge was number 1 last year and he won, which I think Edge will go down as the most forgettable Royal Rumble winner considering he lost. He's the only multiple time Royal Rumble winner that did not successfully win the title at WrestleMania. So it's just like, come on, bro. But
and also Edge don't need that.
Yeah, I didn't care for him winning last year.
Me neither. I really didn't.
But you know, seeing they wanted to do Edge and Roman, it was like, all right, and they didn't put it. The match was better that took place at Money in the Bank, or no, was it Money? No, it was the one about Money in the Bank. Yeah. It was better there than what it would have been at WrestleMania, in my opinion, because the story just was like, that's why they had to throw Daniel Bryan in there. But you know, with Bianca coming in at number 3, and I'm like, oh man. But you also think like, well, if it's anybody who can do it, she has the cardio. You know, Flair was the first to do it at the number 3 entry, and you know, just like last year, I'm gonna watch that one again. You know, I thought they did a phenomenal job for them to have to do it in the Thunderdome. I just thought that, you know, I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Came to me today too. I was like, oh my god, is this the first Royal Rumble back with crowds?
Yeah, since Edge's return, because Edge's return was like great in Phoenix too. I think that was Phoenix, cool. And it was like, you know, it was like one of the more larger places. Have you ever been to one?
No.
Yeah, neither. This was supposed to be the first one.
I was supposed to be at the first women's one.
Okay.
But that's another fucking long story. And I wanted to go in general because it was in Philly. That's close to New York. So I was like, oh my God, that would be the perfect thing to do. Then they announced the women's one. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, and can we just talk about that match really quickly? First of all, Sasha Banks was number 1. Who else though?
Yeah, the very first entry in the Royal Rumble.
So that already kicked it off. Like, yes. And Becky was number 2. And at that time, Becky was like, I was like, oh, Becky. And now, you know, 4 or 5 years later, to know that they started the first women's Royal Rumble is still it's really dope.
Yeah, I definitely think the women's, obviously, it's, you know, it's a difference of 30 years. or it's 30 plus years, but the women's Royal Rumble, the history of it will hold up, right? The men's Royal Rumble history, to me, I would say like doesn't really get like if I tell like like somebody who's like kind of know the history but don't. I think the Royal Rumble I tell them to start with is 92. I don't tell them to start with the first one
The
or
first one
even
is
even the back-to-back Hogan ones. I don't say, oh, you got to watch these. I think I tell them go back and watch the 92.
that.
And
I
then,
think is. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no,
Is
you
where
good.
I feel like Royal Rumble got its footing of like what it really is going to be, and then you
Mhm.
got Ric Flair's promo after. So it's
Yeah.
like it shows you like the vibe of what Royal Rumble is supposed to be like.
Yeah, because after a while it would have got stale if they didn't put because the first few, like I said, when Hogan won, he was the champion. So it was just like, oh, we're gonna have this big battle royal. But then it was like, okay, now we're making it. You get the title. Hey, what's up? And shout out to Krista B tuning in. You get the Royal Rumble with all the the biggest prize on the line. And pet peeve of mine when I go back and watch the 93, I hate seeing the image of Savage hitting the flying elbow drop. You watch Power?
I do.
He like that was a Zeke moment.
Yes.
like who booked this? Like, come on, y'all could have had. I could see if he, like he really went for the pin though. I'm like, come on now.
It makes me like uncomfortable.
Yes,
that you made that kind of mistake. But I love you, though, Macho. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I would start. I agree with you. I would definitely start with 92.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
So which one is your favorite?
Besides the 2018 Women's Royal Rumble. And can I just say one more thing about that match?
Go ahead.
For me personally, because 2018 is my favorite year for the women in WWE. For me, it showed that they were taking women's wrestling seriously. Because Royal Rumble, in the context of WWE history, is synonymous. Like it has a legacy. So the fact that you're giving the women one really showed me like, oh shit, like they're really taking the women. And then for me, that's 30 women. Like, for someone that's craving women on TV, and it's like, okay, well, here's an event where you have 30 of them to pop up and you don't know who's showing up. And there's ones from the past, and there's going to be ones from now. And because this is so brand new, we don't have 30 yet. We don't have duds yet because there hasn't been 40 of them. You know what I mean? Like, it's still so fresh for the women. And then this year, like, but so besides that one, sorry.
No, you good.
I would have to say, only for nostalgic purposes, and I can't remember the year right now because I was watching them so much, is the one where Vince won.
99?
Yeah, only because the nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like I watch it and I am 9 years old again watching it, and because I was so young and so into just the story of everything, like the anticipation of just like, and I cared so much about Stone. Like when he got carried off in the stretcher, like I'm really like the whole time watching the Rumble, like, okay, but like I was still smart enough to know like he didn't get eliminated though. So, like just rationalizing it, and then Vince comes back out on commentary and I'm just like, I hate him. And then him like just the whole like it was just great to me.
So like, the best part for me, like I mentioned earlier on the show, my uncle brought the tape. This was also a time where there was no internet. And 99, so I'm in 7th grade. I don't think any of my friends had watched the pay-per-view. So I was able to watch that tape fresh, all the matches, and that was like, okay, going home, going upstairs in my room, I'm doing my homework, watching it. Oh man, so it was so much fun watching it again. That's always every year, that's always in my rotation of Royal Rumbles to watch. Nice. Tomorrow I'll probably pop in the 96 Rumble. I remember we ordered that one. My parents ordered it for us. And funny story, I don't know if you remember like recording with tapes, right? But if you put it on like SP, it was like take up 2 hours, and SLP. And I forgot to put it on SLP. And so it recorded all the way through. And it was like, we get to the Royal Rumble match and Owen Hart's going to come out and then the tape stopped. So I'm like, wait, what the heck? So I rewinded the tape and then just record again. So I was like, I ain't think like go grab another tape. So I ended up recording over a lot of stuff. But that was one, and I was really happy Shawn Michaels won because I wasn't sure he was gonna win. But I always like going back, and then obviously Bret the Hitman Hart and Undertaker in the main event, which was, if I'm not mistaken, to me that was like the first time I remember seeing the WWE title close the show rather than the Royal Rumble match. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, obviously they would do it again, but like I love this time of year because it's like this is the fun time to be a wrestler fan. Some Royal Rumbles are super predictable. And some of them are. Do you want to go through the whole card, or you just want to go through the women's matches before I get your predictions?
We could go through the whole card.
Okay. All right. So let's start with the tag team match: the Grit couple versus the It couple.
So excited for this. Well, Brian,
she had a legit pop.
Oh my god, Brian, no idea. I love the Miz.
Mm-hmm.
I love Maurice. Okay, I love the It couple, right? Then you got Beth Phoenix coming back. Beth and Maurice have history, bad blood. People don't, it was over the Divas title, but they had beef. And then you got Edge. It's just fun. You can't get no better than that.
Yeah.
To me. You know what I mean? And then every week it gets better and better and better. The brick, Maurice with the brick, oh my, I'm loving it.
I mean, when they're closing the show, they're doing something right. When they close the show on Raw.
Yo, and to the point where I was like, oh shit, that was the main event. I love it. So I don't like to do predictions per se.
Okay.
But I mean, we got Edge and Beth winning that, right? Or the Miz winning by the Maurice winning by DQ or whatever the case. I'm excited.
Got you. So let me ask you this: how excited are you for Lashley and Lesnar?
I'm excited. Shockingly.
Okay. Why you say
because normally I like Bobby Lashley, but the men's are I'm not oh my god, but I've become a Brock Lesnar fan over the last few months. It's very confusing for me. I'm working it out. And I've become a Bobby Lashley fan because I just root for him because I think his title reign was fun, MVP. I root for him, and that is a dream match. So I like it. And Brock's been selling more for people. So I'm this could low-key be a really good match.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're gonna tear the house down. I think we will get maybe less than 8 minutes, maybe less than 10, but I think they're gonna tear the house down.
I agree. I mean, Brock is winning, but good
you think so?
For Bobby. Oh, you think Bobby has? I mean, I just assume that they just always suck Brock. I mean, let me keep it PG. I just never see Brock losing, so I guess that makes it exciting because you actually think Bobby can win. That's awesome.
I'll say this. I'm gonna say this. Bobby has to win. Oh, so I'm gonna have PTSD with Booker T and Triple H.
Good point.
Because I do not like the Bobby Who stuff. Now, Bobby said on MacMania that baby, Brock is helping him sell T-shirts. You don't realize that. He said he's helping me because I'm gonna get those T-shirts made.
Nice.
But I want him to show Bobby Who, and he was on Corey Graves' podcast talking about he looked into Brock Lesnar's eyes and he could tell a lot by a man. And he said he has no soul. And one of the things he said to Evan and him, he said, look, he out here telling knock jokes. I'm the biggest fight of his life. So he better take me seriously.
Love it.
I'm hearing all this, and I'm like, Brock keeps going up, Brock keeps making fun. Bobby better win.
You make a great point. I agree with you now.
I'll be mad.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, so the Universal Championship match, Roman and Rollins.
I'm into it.
Okay.
I'm into it because I just love both of them. I think it's going to be a fun match. I mean, it's Seth Rollins, and I could look at Roman do anything. So, I think if anyone does take the title off of Roman, it would be Seth.
See, I don't think the person on whoever should take the title off of Roman, I don't think they on the main roster yet. I think Roman needs to be the guy to hold that title until it's somebody that's never seen him.
I love it.
Or his cousin. You know, it needs to be like he needs to be like caught off guard, you know.
Right.
But that's how I feel.
It has to be a moment because you can't just be champion for like almost 2 years and lose to, like, that's why I'm like, who are you really about to drop that to?
Yeah,
like,
you know,
who?
Like when Bruno lost to what's the other guy's name? I'm looking right at him. Billy Graham. Like it was a big deal, you know.
Right.
But I have to say, y'all up in New York, y'all maybe like that. So for people who's never been to a wrestler show in New York, I've heard it for years. Like you gotta go. I haven't done MSG yet, but the Barclays Center was great, and just being in that atmosphere when Rollins came out, and you just hear like the way he was bouncing with the music. That like I literally was in the airport the next day listening to Seth Rollins music, just putting myself back in the back in that era, you know, like back in the arena, you know, and you know, me and Krista B was right there when they brought the guy past.
Oh God!
I was like, whoa! I was like, I'm sorry. I said it's just a habit, you know. She's like, oh no, you know, but because you know, I didn't know he was gonna like try to break out or whatever.
That was
and
crazy.
And then they brought his Rollins stylist was trying to like go after the other guy, you know, which I was like, I commend him. Like, hey, you
right? That's some real.
Yeah, RNS.
I respect it. Yes.
So, you know, but I've been enjoying the Seth Rollins. It's always funny because like every time my daughter sees him, we was at the SmackDown when Rollins broke into Edge's house. So that's what she always says. Is that the guy? That's Seth Rollins. He broke into Edge's house. So, but yeah, Roman gotta win. Who you have a dark horse or
for what?
The men's Royal Rumble match. Oh, can you hear me?
No, I can. The men's Royal Rumble match. I don't know. I don't like to put too much thought into this because I really like to go in. Like the surprise factor is really like what I love.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
How do you feel about Becky Lynch and Doudrop's feud, and how do you feel about this match coming up?
I am enjoying it because I feel like Doudrop's been having good matches with people. Mm-hmm. I wish there was more time for it, like to build it. You know what I mean? Like it was just like, okay, well, Doudrop was beefing with Bianca, and Liv is beefing with Becky. So we'll put Bianca also has beef with Becky, so we'll put them in a triple threat match. And Doudrop has momentum, and Liv already has a championship match opportunity before, so we're gonna give it to Doudrop because we know Doudrop and Becky are gonna put on a good match, kind of thing, which is cool. But I wish I was more like emotionally invested in it because I mean we all know Becky's gonna win. You know what I mean? And that's what I hate about like going back to like what I am not liking about Becky and Charlotte. It's gotten to a point where it's like, how can I fully root for this match when it's like we all know Becky's gonna win?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing.
I'll tell you this.
I mean, I don't hate it.
I'll take you back 1993. Bret Hart, Razor Ramon. That's what this reminds me of. That match was to get us used to seeing Razor Ramon in the main event picture.
Do you know that's exactly what I'm up to in Bret Hart's book?
Oh wow!
Like literally, that's exactly what I'm up to. Because I love reading the time when he's champion for the first time because he's it's very interesting. But literally, that's what I'm up to. They were like, because he didn't have any heels at the time.
Yeah.
Because they all got released because of steroid scandal. So that's why they pushed Razor Ramon to the moon like that. So that's so funny. But yeah.
Yeah, especially when
I totally get the parallel.
Yeah, with Flair leaving, going back to WCW. Because that probably, you figure, all right, Ramon came around the 92 Survivor Series. and probably around before that, and he was in a big program with Macho Man and supposed to be Ultimate Warrior, ended up being Mr. Perfect. So then it was like, all right, but you think about it, that probably would have been Ric Flair and Bret Hart at the Royal Rumble, just so that Bret Hart could kind of get, been a rematch to get Bret Hart like that credible win. So now you got Razor Ramon. So that's what I see Doudrop in that spot where we're now getting used to seeing her in this picture and see how she handles it, and then, she'll get her, probably get a shot at, I'm claiming, I'm going to put this on paper, Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, WrestleMania. That's why I don't need nobody else to get over. And then Bianca, then we'll be satisfied. We all hate it. What happened at SummerSlam? We'll be fine. We'll probably be fine.
Clean win.
Yeah,
like a real match.
Yeah. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm disappointed that we'll get to the women's Royal Rumble, but I'm disappointed that borrowing some miracle Sasha Banks is not going to be in there because I told you what I wanted before. But yeah, I think that's what it is, and that's why I'm okay with this. I'm interested to see how Doudrop looks in the match more so, But who knows? I mean, everybody on the Ringer, we all picked Becky, so it would be the shock of the world,
right?
If Doudrop wins. But yeah, now obviously it's time for the Royal Rumble. I know you said you want to go in with a clean slate. Let me ask you this: how excited are you to see the Impact Women's Champion Mickie James come in this way?
I'm probably gonna cry. I'm not even gonna front. Like, just the significance of that. Like, I can't even, like, they said it on TV. They tweeted that she was Impact Knockouts champion. Like, do you know how fucking amazing that is?
Thanks for correcting. I said women's champion. Yeah, Knockouts champion.
No, it's. I just like that's amazing. And I don't know if it was on Busted Open or what she was on, and she was saying like, oh, if like I'm absolutely gonna try to come out with my Knockouts championship, and I will just like fall out. And the way that she was treated when she left, and now to see her kind of being like the pioneer of this hopefully forbidden door is like, oh my god, we got Mickie James, we got the Bella Twin. Like, I'm so excited. So excited. Oh my god. Like, how do you feel? I'm curious about them announcing all these legends. Do you think they should have saved it for the surprise factor?
Would have loved to seen the rest of them saved. I like WWE doing the rub for not Impact Wrestling because they had a big pay-per-view coming up, and that gives them the opportunity to put some more eyeballs on that product, right? Maybe some more people ordered it because, even if it's, 100,000 more people, that's a win,
Yeah.
So I love them doing that. I just would have rather the rest of them been a surprise,
Yeah.
But if Impact didn't have it, then I would have loved to see. But I'm more of I love sitting there watching the Royal Rumble for the surprise factor to see who comes out. So that's where I'm with that.
Yeah, I agree. But it's still that like, I think it adds more anticipation for me because I'm just gonna like always just be waiting for like hardcore country or like the Twins team. So like every single time. And then what's so exciting about it is just like whoever comes out, I'm still gonna be hyped. So it's just like, oh, it's gonna be.
That's why I want to go to one. I want to know what it's like, that to be in the crowd when you hear the countdown. What's one thing that's interesting about the Royal Rumble? 96 was the first year when they started using theme music. Before that, it was always just and people run out. 96.
Wow, you're right.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine Royal Rumble without theme music.
Yeah, right.
That's the best part.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, and back then, I mean, obviously, we was like, it was normal to us. I remember watching when it happened that year, watching it live because, like I said, we ordered that one, and I was like, "Oh wow!" Because we ordered the '94. That was the first one my parents ordered, and that Royal Rumble was just like I went on a emotion. I was mad because Bret Hart and Owen didn't win the tag titles. That Owen wanted to act like a what, so I was mad about that. Then Undertaker couldn't beat Yokozuna, so I was mad about that. But then Bret Hart and Lex Luger won, so I was like, happy, But it's like they didn't play music; they just came out there, and then here we go. It's like, oh, so now music is a thing. So I think that was, I was glad that they added that. I was like, that's one of the questions. I'd be like, what made y'all do that?
Yeah, because that's definitely a game changer for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave you to not make a prediction.
If I was betting money though, I would say Liv or Alexa Bliss.
Ooh, Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, I can see them because they just fucking love her. WWE. You know what I mean?
I like Alexa Bliss. I think that she has shown range. Oh,
she's amazing.
Yeah, she's shown range.
Super talented.
She doesn't try to go beyond her limits. She's not gonna go out there and try to say out wrestle Sasha.
Right.
But she'll, it feels like she'll keep up and she'll let Sasha lead her. And that's where we see, obviously we give Sasha Banks her flowers. Matter of fact, is it today or was yesterday her birthday?
I think it's today.
Yeah. But yeah, we give her flowers because she's a ring general. And you start to see that. And I would love to see, and I hope they put some of the women from NXT because I'm really excited for the women down there. I know, like with NXT 2.0, a lot of people don't like it. One of the things for me that's been hard is that they've been we're getting thrown so much at once, right? Yeah. Where the first NXT was like a gradual change from FCW, and then we saw like Natalya and Jinder Mahal go down there. Now it seems like we got like so much, like we took out a bunch of people and we've added more, but now I'm really starting to enjoy it. And I would have loved to seen like some of the women from there come up. But hopefully next year. Maybe we will see.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still some spots that we don't know of yet.
Mm-hmm. Any chances you think we might see some people who was like recently released that's not on like any promotion? Any chance you think we might see them there?
I was actually thinking about that. I think this would be a good chance for them to bring people back because then you don't got to explain nothing. It's just like, okay, they're back. You know what I mean? I was thinking Nia Jax. Because like, what's Royal Rumble without her? Yeah, we didn't even talk about her. She entered the men's Royal Rumble, and that shit was lit.
And she took the RKO.
Yeah, she took the RKO. She took a 619. She took another finisher, I think, and she did her thing.
Nia Jax is special, man.
She really is. I miss her.
A lot of people, like to troll and say, "Oh, she's rough," and this, that, and the other. First of all, we're not in the ring with her,
right?
And don't what happens with Total Divas? But when you look at like what she's done, especially that promo leading into the story with her and Alexa Bliss leading into WrestleMania 34. I thought was phenomenal, and it was like something that really helped because you have people out there who she could relate to, who could relate to her, and I thought that was important.
Right. I think she's one of those people that we take for granted because she was featured a lot, and like people love to troll that, and it's like, wait, I kind of miss her because she's one of those people too, like. Whatever she was funny with Shayna Baszler when she had to be the baby face with Alexa Bliss. She made the man.
Talk about it.
You know what I mean? Like Nia Jax was very influential, and I hope it's not gonna be one of those things where if WWE's not in favor of you, they kind of they write you out of the narrative. And I really hope that's not the case because Nia Jax has been dominating, since she got to the, main roster. So I think she could come back
as a Hall of Famer.
Oh, 100%. I hope she comes back. I always seen her as a lifer. I would that still shocks me that she was fired.
Yeah. You've been to
Anyway.
one Hall of Fame, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to the one with when DX got inducted. A lot. That was a great lineup.
Yeah, it was. That was the week. So, funny story. I had went out and got a grill that day, right? And well, my wife had got it, so I was like, I didn't put it together. And I'm thinking I was just gonna hurry up, get it done. I'm not a handyman by any means. Should have called my dad, but it was like getting into like it's almost time, and I was thinking I was gonna put the grill together, cook some food. Nope, had to go get pizza. So I'm literally watching until like so like this may be or may not be popular to say, but I'm a huge Brutus Beefcake fan. So like I was like, all right, by that time he came in, I was downstairs. But one of the things like I wanted to ask you, like, because like obviously I watched this show on y'all YouTube channel, but what was it like for you? For me, I would say this. Let me tee it up. So for me, it was like all those stupid assemblies that I had to go to in school and all those stupid presentations that I didn't care nothing about. Now, when I went to the Hall of Fame in WrestleMania 28, it was like, finally, I'm going to hit something that's like where you're watching a bunch of people talk all day. That I care about. What was your thoughts on your first Hall of Fame?
The speeches are much longer than they edited down to sometimes. I realized that. I enjoyed it because I wasn't supposed to go. One of my really good friends randomly was like, "You want to go to Hall of Fame?" I was like, "Sure." I was volunteering at Access, and I was on my way home, and I had to go into Brooklyn anyway. I had to pass the Barclays Center to go home, so I was like, "Sure, why not?" So that was for me. I was just like, I wasn't even supposed to be here, so this is amazing. But it was great, and then I think it was one of the first times they did it in the ring.
Yep.
So that was unique. That it was completely different from like what I expected. And then they honored hearing them speak so highly of Chyna. I was like in tears because that was one of the first times that I was like, y'all are acknowledging her, and then hearing everyone, including Triple H. And where we were sitting, like I could see Stephanie McMahon, and like I for some reason just had my eyes on her the whole time for some reason. But
what was her face like?
Right, exactly. But she's all smiles. She's corporate.
She won.
Right, exactly. And I think like she had like one of her daughters with her too. So it was a really great because of the lineup. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I don't want to go to every single Hall of Fame, but you had DX, you had Harlem Heat, DDP, Heart Foundation. So for the lineup was great. So it was great.
Yeah, it's the event that like I sit and watch.
Yeah, I like to like get some food. Like how you were planning. Like that's how I like to watch Hall of Fame usually.
Yeah, so I was wondering, your thoughts on that. Just to because like
people don't talk about going to that experience of going to Hall of Fame. I'm glad you asked me that.
Yeah, shout out to Corey and Dr. D and Glenn because before my first WrestleMania 28, they had been to a few before, so they prepped me. It's like, yeah, man, you get all dressed up with your suit and this, that, and the other, and it was like, oh, okay. I was like, man, so I was excited. And my the first one I went to, that's when the Four Horsemen got inducted. Nice. Mike Tyson, and just hearing Mike Tyson tell the stories of him as a wrestling fan.
Oh my god!
And it was fun. Then seeing the Usos when they was inducting Yokozuna, and they was in tears. And we as wrestling fans, a lot of times, because we don't, we know from what we read, but we don't realize the impact. And they talked about when they first turned on the TV, and they was like, "Unc is Japanese, huh?" and look, 4, 5, 6-year-old me believed it. They obviously wouldn't be able to get away with that now. But so that was the thing, just being there. Now, when I went to the one in Orlando, it was harder to hear because the Amway Center speakers were terrible. So I was like, I can't wait to get home and watch because I couldn't really hear DDP. Now, thank God, by the time Kurt Angle got inducted, I could hear it. Nice. And then when he did home, and I was just like, yes, you're back where you belong.
Love it. I have like this soft spot when wrestlers say that, like when I forgot one of the times The Rock came back and he was like, finally, The Rock has come home. And I was like, because this is The Rock's home. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like when your favorite wrestler comes back, like, this is your home and we missed you and we're glad that you're back.
It's always funny when you talk to like young wrestling fans. I mean, young people, and they don't realize that The Rock was a wrestler. Like, he was a wrestler? Was he good? Like, yes.
Yes. And I'm rewatching some. I just watched the Mick Foley and the I Quit match. I forgot which year that was. I was like,
99.
Whoa. Yeah.
That must be my favorite one. Yeah. Them chair shots. Talking about stuff you can't do now, man. And they was not holding back. Like, Rock was laying them in.
Like, it's hard to watch. Put it that way.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get out of here. Any final thoughts on Royal Rumble?
I'm just really, really excited, and I hope one day my dream of actually going to one comes true.
Oh, it's going to happen. It'll happen. Let's claim it for 2023. You will you be live tweeting? I know usually y'all do Who's Watching Raw with us. Will be you on the feed? Will be Chris to be on the feed for Royal Rumble?
So we might go to Legends. Shout out to John Tier. So it's really hard for us to live tweet while we're at Legends. And for me during Royal Rumble, I'm like a kid in front of the TV. Like I'm all in. So we probably won't be live tweeting as much. But I'll be partying, getting drunk, yelling. I'm not gonna have a voice. It's like every Monday, or now it'll be Sunday, after Royal Rumble, I don't have a voice.
Oh wow.
I'm literally just screaming.
Yeah. Oh no, I get it. Trust me. Yeah, I'm excited. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned right here on the Wrestling Realm. This week, the real Dwayne Allen and I will be having our Royal Rumble preview show on the Wrestling Realm Now podcast. Make sure y'all obviously it's on the screen, but let them know everywhere they can follow you.
You can follow me personally on Twitter, Instagram at Queen3_PR. But please follow those wrestling girls if you don't already. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have episodes every other Monday. And I just came up with the idea of doing a watch along tomorrow on our Twitch for the first Women's Royal Rumble. So stay tuned for that as well. Brian, I'm gonna definitely see what you're doing tomorrow. But anyway,
what time?
Make sure you check us up. We'll chat. Okay. But yeah, definitely follow us everywhere. New episode drops Monday.
All right. Appreciate you coming on. This ain't your first time, so sure won't be your last. Yay. All right, everybody, take care. Thanks for joining us.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes!
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Break It Down with Brian H. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you get notified every time the Wrestling Realm posts new content.